Module 11, we're going to talk about vSphere Update Manager. Again, this is our map. See, we're on Module 11. So in our vSphere environment, over time, there may be patches, bugs, to where we're at a certain build number in our environment, and they found out later there may be some bugs if you're doing things a certain way in the software. There may be vulnerabilities. There may be enhancements. Generally, they can do that on the next version, but that's a way too. We can update our versions using Update Manager, but Update Manager is what we use to patch those vulnerabilities or fixes or bugs. Our learner objectives, you should be able to describe the Update Manager functionality, list the steps to install Update Manager, and then we're going to should be able to use Update Manager to create and attach a baseline to an ESXi host. So vSphere Update Manager gives us a centralized automated way to patch ESXi hosts, update the virtual machine hardware, update VMware tools, and any type of virtual appliances we've downloaded. Again, Update Manager does the patches. That reduces our security risk because we're able to automate and patch this when the patches become available. If you choose to do so, you can also do it manually. It also makes the management easier, and it reduces security risk. I will say, if you can use Update Manager, do it. The way of updating the ESXi host without Update Manager, the way I've done it is you have to go out to the VMware patch bulletin board, see what build number you're at on your ESXi host, look at the patches that are newer than your build number and what build it will take you to, and then you run a ESXi CLI software vib command and give it your depot. So you download the patch, upload it to a data store that the ESXi host can access, and then run this ESXi software vib command to give it that location to update it. And Update Managers are a lot easier. Just it'll go out, it'll tell you, oh, you need to patch this host, there's patches available, and you just hit stage and install, or stage and then do an install. We can also update our VMware tools. So let's say we've patched ESXi, it puts a new version of VMware tools out there on the host. Well, let's say we got a Windows or Linux machines running on our environment, and it has now a newer version of VMware tools. We can use Update Manager to stage that and install it, like schedule it, install it at a time that is not as busy, because the VM host is going to have to be rebooted after the tools are updated. It does this through a VIB, and that's a VMware infrastructure bundle. Now, when VMware tools are installed on the ESXi host, they're put in a product locker directory, and we'll talk about that in this slide. So you may notice too, you have when you go to install VMware tools, you just right click on the virtual machine and say install or update VMware tools. Well, you don't give it a folder where it's at. It's in this product locker. And the product locker exists on the ESXi host, but is then distributed across your environment with Update Manager. But if you look in the product locker directory, you'll have a VM tools and a floppies directory. And this is where, when you download an update and install it, if there was an update to VMware tools, it will get put in this product locker VM tools directory. Update Manager, of course, allows automated patching and downloading, allows you to create baselines and baseline groups. You can also scan your ESXi host for compliance, and then you're able to remediate, which install the patches that are needed so you can be compliant. The Update Manager has a server component. Before 6.5, I recommended customers to not use the VCSA, the VMware vCenter server appliance, if they wanted to use Update Manager, because it only ran on Windows. So what you would have to do, you'd have the VCA running vCenter, and then you'd have another Windows host running Update Manager. So in a lot of environments, I would suggest just stay with Windows for vCenter. That way you've got one host to manage. That's for smaller environments. Now larger, as you need to distribute things, you would probably want to separate that function. But as a 6.5, Update Manager runs in the vCenter server appliance. The client component is in the web client, and that's a piece of service that runs as part of the vSphere web client. And it will also store data in a database. But that's the database that's on your vCenter server appliance. Again, what supports vCenter, Oracle, or SQL Server if you're doing it on Windows. We configure the Update Manager settings. This is where if you're using a proxy server, you would set it up. Any kind of network connectivity settings you would have. You can give it a download schedule and a notification, and then any kind of virtual machine and hosting cluster settings. So a baseline will include one or more patches, extension, or upgrades. By default, we have 2 dynamic patch baselines and 3 upgrade baselines. A baseline group can include multiple baselines. Now you can create a custom one baseline, and you can say, you know, if all of my hosts are 6.5, I may want to filter and create a baseline that only does 6.5 updates. And I can do a fixed one to where it's only going to have these baselines, but every time there's a new update, I'm going to have to go specify I want these updates to go. Maybe good in a certain environment where, you know, you would want to test the patches out in a different environment before you release them, and it would help keep from new updates downloading, such as like Windows Update. It may download and break something. Maybe you want to test that first. As like a dynamic baseline, we would say, okay, I want all the patches for 6.5. Well, as soon as one comes out, it's going to download it and it'll be available. Then you would, if you want to do it manually, you'd have a schedule that would install when they're available at a certain time, or you'd manually do it and you would just hit update, and then any of the new ones that came down would get pushed. You can create a host extension baseline, and this might be good for you if you have third-party software that's in with VMware. One that comes to mind will be the Cisco Nexus Virtual Series. It shows up in those. And you can also filter your patches or extensions with a new baseline. After we have our baseline, we then can attach it. And when you hit attach baseline, you'll see the next slide. Well, let's go to this one. When you attach the baseline, it'll come up with a window. I thought it was on the next slide. You'll see it'll give you a list of the host, and you select your host, say, and then hit OK in that window, and it'll attach that baseline to those hosts. After that's attached, we then will scan for updates. And what this will do, it'll see, as you can see in this one right here, is that we have these 2 hosts right here are attached to that baseline, and we're scanning for updates. Then we can tell it whether we want to scan for patches and extensions or just upgrades. It'll then tell us if anything's available, or in this scenario, it's compliant. So there's really no patches to do, nothing new out there, we're on the latest. If it does come up and says, you know, it needs remediation, we can remediate it. You can remediate virtual machines, virtual machine templates, virtual appliances, and hosts. Now, I will say this, it says remediate virtual machines. It does not. Years ago, I think in version version 4, maybe early 5. That might have been when they removed it. But anyway, you could have it integrate with Windows updates. And what would happen with that, I could have it patch my Windows virtual machines for me. That's not the case anymore. So when it says remediate virtual machines, you're just going to be updating the virtual machine hardware version or VMware tools, stuff that's still pertinent to VMware, but not inside the guest operating system. You can do a patch recall notification. What happens is the update manager contacts VMware and it gets notifications about patch recalls, new fixes, or alerts. And the notification check schedule is selected by default. When it gets the recall notification, Update Manager generates a notification in the notification tab. It no longer applies the recall patch to any host, and it deletes the patch binaries from the patch repository. It does not uninstall recall patches from an ESXi host. It will then wait for a newer patch that fixes that patch to make the host compliant. So after this, we should be able to describe Update Manager functionality, list the steps to install Update Manager, and use Update Manager to create and attach a baseline. Any questions? Just contact your instructor.